Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Palm Tree Sports. I am your host, Corey Pujols, and it is brought to you and powered by IU Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. And guys, happy Saturday. I hope you're enjoying your weekend. I'm enjoying my weekend. It's been a long and lengthy weekend, and may I just say that by the grace of God, I am blessed to have a place to stay at the moment. For those, obviously, I don't share too much personal information, but unfortunately, my time at my original apartment complex is up, and I since have moved on, and I'm no longer right by the Bucs Stadium. Actually, about 30 minutes away, over in Brandon, Florida. So, guys, it's a blessing to still be able to do this right now, to be here and to be able to come to you guys with this information. Against all the odds, we are here and we are live, baby. So welcome. As I mentioned before, I hope you're enjoying your weekend. There are a lot of sports going on right now, and we're going to go ahead and get into some of that. So without further ado, let's jump right back into things, guys, and we're going to talk about the NFL. Now, I will urge you guys that this show will be considerably shorter than previous shows, and that's just, again, due to the fact of the off-season for a lot of sports, and then also for other sports, we're already in the swing of things for the playoffs, i.e. the Rays are playing right now. That's the only team really that's not in the playoff mode, but they're playing like a playoff team. I'm watching that game, so I'll be bringing you a couple of updates there live. And then, of course, we have the NHL and the NBA both in the swing of the playoffs. So we're going to go ahead and cover all that. So let's start off with the NFL, and let's start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers like we normally do, okay? Now, because we're in the off season for the NFL, there's not going to be obviously a lot of play news, as in, you know, what's going on between team to team, who's playing each other, and yada yada yada. But there is a bit of information coming out of South Florida, and the biggest part of that is going to be that the Buccaneers have picked up the fifth-year option on Tristan Wirfs. As you guys know, Tristan Wirfs has been considered the best or top two best guards in the league, guard/tackle. This man can play a little bit of everything, believe it or not, and he has been an absolute powerhouse at his position. I think he's only allowed a handful of sacks since his introduction into the league, and this is his fourth year, and the Bucs have already gone ahead to pick up his fifth-year option. So obviously, that's something that was going to be a no-brainer. We weren't going to be able to not pick him up for his fifth-year option. So, and I think that they made the right move by doing that. Now, that is a very good question. And obviously, with Tristan Wirfs there at tackle, it begs the question, and him moving over to left tackle, my apologies, it begs the question, who should the Bucs draft, and should they think O-line? Yes, absolutely. So, as a diehard Buccaneer fan, I can tell you exactly what Tampa Bay needs. And it's about half the roster, to be honest with you, that they need to fill. But you can get away with drafting properly in the first 3 or 4 rounds and not necessarily have to go back into the draft for that specific position. What does that mean? That means, for instance, Tampa Bay needs cornerbacks, right? They're going to need to get perhaps 1 or 2 quarterbacks. Maybe draft one, maybe get an undrafted guy, see if they can come and improve themselves. But the truth to the matter is they weren't able to retain all of their safeties in defensive backfield. So that's going to be an area of need. But that area of need can be filled a little bit later on in the draft. As far as the first round is to be concerned, there is a lot of speculation on who's going to go where, what teams are going to draft what. There have been some teams like the Texans saying, hey, we want to draft a quarterback, but the guy that we want may not be there, so we may end up taking another guy instead. When you have teams that think that way, it's hard to project whether, a team is going to get what they need or get the best position off the board, right? Get the best player off the board at that specific position. Tampa Bay did that a few years back, drafting O.J. Howard, and that was relatively good. We won a Super Bowl with him. So, and he was actually instrumental there. He actually helped in the comeback against, I'm sorry, Taryn, but he helped in the instrumental comeback against the then San Diego Chargers. So, and a lot of people, if you guys saw that game, that was one of Tom Brady's, that was his first comeback victory as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And that's why I mentioned that. So we will see what happens with these teams. However, if I had to pick some players, personally speaking, and because we have Baker Mayfield, I would be content with Florida drafting Anthony Richardson if he's there. Here's the deal. I'm also a Gator. I've watched Anthony Richardson develop from practice and on, as into a starter, and I can tell you this. excuse me, guys, my apologies. I can tell you this. He is easily the most physically gifted quarterback in the draft, maybe the most physically gifted quarterback we've ever seen. in all honesty. The man goes 6'4", 230 pounds. He runs like the wind, bullseye. And did I mention that he has an arm from the gods? This guy can absolutely sail it. And when I tell you we haven't necessarily begun to see the length of which he can sail that football, I'm talking about I wouldn't be surprised if he could get it from the Pacific to the Atlantic. Now, I am exaggerating a little bit, but the guy's absolutely tremendous. So I would love to see Tampa Bay draft, Anthony Richardson. I don't care if that means you trade up in the draft to get him or he's there for us at 19. However, that is not the only position that Tampa Bay needs help in. The next two positions, one I already mentioned before, was cornerback, and the other one was edge. Those two positions are kind of one and the same because without good cornerbacks, without good edges, you're not going to be able to do much of anything on defense. Let's just call it like what it is. We saw what happened when Tampa Bay won its first Super Bowl. We saw what happened when Tampa Bay won its second Super Bowl. You know how they won it? With tremendous defense. Yes, the offense performed. Of course, the offense is going to perform when your defense is shutting teams out left and right, holding an all-time great offense to 9 points in a Super Bowl. Okay, and then when you go back to the 2002 year with Rich Gannon, Jerry Rice, and Joey Porter, and Tim Brown, in this offense that was number one in the league, and they couldn't get on the board in the first half. Guys, at the end of the first half of that Super Bowl, it was 21-6 Bucks. Okay? Your number one offense in the league at that time was able to muster up 2 field goals. So, I beg the question, will it be more important for the Bucks to go cornerback or edge, right? Off of that second pick, obviously, in the second round is where I would imagine to do that type of damage. I would go quarterback in the first round just because there's no guarantee that these top 5 quarterbacks will even be there, okay, come the second round. It's very possible that these guys could all go in the first. So, I lead with, obviously, you have guys like Jalen Carter, right, out of Georgia. That guy was a monster. We saw him as Gator fans. We saw him a lot, and he was not any kind of helpful to us, obviously, playing for Georgia and being the guy that he was. He's a big, thick guy with a lot of power. Now, on the edge, there's also Will Anderson Jr. Will Anderson being coached by one of the greatest, if not the greatest head coach in the history of college football, Nick Saban, and a defensive-minded coach at that, makes this guy an absolute stud. He is projected to be the best edge rusher, so if the Bucs were going to trade up to get somebody and felt like it would not be a quarterback, or if they wanted to hold their pick at 19 and still, think, hey, I can get a quarterback there, that would be the move. Right, that would be the one move that I do see. Now, there are some other names out there, some good quality players. Obviously, Anthony Richardson is not the only quarterback, but C.J. Stroud, his stock dropped a tiny bit, and then there's also, of course, Will Levis, who played at Kentucky. We saw him. Guy's got tremendous heart, tremendous physical ability. So there are some serious options at quarterback in round 1. There are some serious options at defense. And also for a cornerback, for perspective, guys, there's a young guy by the name of Christian Gonzalez who played out of Oregon, who is the top-rated cornerback, as Randy Arozarena just struck out, unfortunately. But anyway, yes, so there are a ton of prospects in the first round that look to be the part that Tampa Bay can go after. Again, I would go after QB, and the simple reason behind that is because the general consensus out of Tampa Bay is that Kyle Trask is just not ready, and there's no guarantee that he will be ready as a starter. I love Kyle Trask. I was a huge fan of his at Florida. However, this is a different ballgame, guys. So we will have to wait and see how his development impacts, especially under the tutelage of a Baker Mayfield, and also that he was under Tom Brady for 2 years. All of those things could come into play later on down the line, but as of for right now, they're not. So with the quarterback room at Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask, it would make all the sense in the world to pick up another quarterback early on, especially with all these gifted quarterbacks. Let's just call it like what it is. This is a much better quarterback draft room than we had last year. Right? Let's be honest here. It's much, much better. So it would behoove the Buccaneers to pick up somebody at QB here first and fulfill all their needs after that. You only need to pick up one QB, guys. Unless somehow, magically, the Buccaneers trade for either the most ideal person would be Lamar Jackson, as his trades are still flowing around from the offer he received from the Ravens. Now, I don't know if he took that offer, guys, but it was a big offer, and he may still want out of Baltimore. So I'm not sure yet, but we'll have to wait and see. Trey Lance is on the market, and the 49ers are fielding trade calls for him. Trey Lance is a quarterback that I would absolutely go after. The kid is blessed, he's gifted, and he's very young. Okay? 49ers are most likely going to stick with Brock Purdy. I mean, why wouldn't you? Look what the kid did last year. If they weren't going to stay with him, that's who I would be trading for. I would be 100% honest with you. Dad, you said, is Devin White still trade bait? Yeah. Yeah, he is. However, the Bucks don't want to trade him. What does that mean? Okay. He wants to trade. He's unhappy in Tampa. Okay, well, he's being a little bougie. Let's just call it what it is. He's being a little bougie. He's got a little princess going on in him, and he's kind of going to have to wiggle that out. He's been throwing shade at Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay is not rich. The kind of money that Devin White should be paid is the kind of money that we will have next year. We just don't have it right now. It's one of the things that he doesn't seem to understand about the cap. And yes, we were able to extend, a deal out to, to our cornerback. I've forgot his name off the top of my head. I've got so many names floating around. But we've signed recently a couple of guys to multi-year deals. However, these deals are much smaller in stature than we would have you believe in. Okay, a lot of this guaranteed money is going to be mostly after this year. So that's the same reason why Tristan Wirfs hasn't received a long-term deal as well, because the kind of money that the Bucks want to pay him and Devin White is going to supersede what they're able to do currently. All right, in with their cap space, and that's just the thing that he's going to have to learn and accept. Now, of course, him not wanting to be in Tampa seems to have a lot to do with what Tristan Wirfs mentioned earlier this week during one of his interviews, saying that there are a lot of guys still living off of the Super Bowl. It's the last thing you want to have after you've won a Super Bowl is guys that still think that they're him just because they were him for a year. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but, odds are it may be possible that the Buccaneers trade Devin White. Just not right now. We'll have to wait and see. The last position the Bucks need to fill in the draft for all intents and purposes, guys, is the O-line. That's something that will be worked on, but it's not a guarantee that we will pick up O-line in the first 2 rounds. I wouldn't be surprised if we did. It's better to get them in the earlier rounds than the later rounds, but there's no guarantee because that would probably be the second to last thing that the Bucks need to fulfill as far as their needs. Remember, quarterback, followed by corner, defensive back, and or edge, okay, depending on how the trades work in the draft. There's going to be a lot of trades, guys. Mark my words, this year may have the most trades done because of the amount of talent all over the place. So there are going to be players who are the best in their position but don't get picked in the top 5 or in the top 10. Be prepared for that, guys. We're going to most likely see a bunch of trades. So that's really it for Tampa Bay. As I mentioned before, like I said, Devin White's not trading him, at least not this year. If Devin White wants to sit out and make it harder for Tampa Bay to utilize him properly, it's only going to hinder his stock more. We've seen that already happen where, teams are like, hey, yeah, we're going to bring you in, of course, but we're not going to suffer the same thing you did before, and most notably with Antonio Brown, who was completely cut from Tampa Bay after his stint in New York. So you guys get what I'm saying there. Basically, we're not going to play any games with Devin. Hopefully, he'll stay here, and we'll be able to pay him next year. But if not, I'm sure we'll be able to get something good for him when the time comes. And as I mentioned before, for the draft, Bucks got to go quarterback. My top pick would be Anthony Richardson just because I've seen what he was able to do. And yes, he is still a 16-year-old with a Ferrari, but I think at this point I'd rather have the 16-year-old with the Ferrari because I have Baker Mayfield in the back. And I know the guy is on a resurgence right now in his career, and his work with the Rams is evidence of that. Now moving on to the Jaguars, guys. There's not as much for the Jaguars and for the Finns, and that's because for the draft, that's basically all they're focused on. Their teams are in much better position and shape than Tampa Bay's was last year. That's borrowing Tua Tagovailoa's status in Miami, but we're going to talk about the Jags first. The Jags, Evan Ingram seems to be sitting out of practices and warming ups for the offseason OTAs that are rapidly approaching us, and that's not a good thing. He's very upset that he hasn't received a long-term deal yet, but then again, they spent a lot of money, and that one is out of here. That's not good. Chicago's tied the game 3-3, guys. Top of the 8th. I'll get to that later, though. Evan Ingram's looking for a long-term deal, and who could blame him? But the Jags spent a lot of money last year, okay? So perhaps they're trying to figure out some more money, and I would suspect that they signed him to a long-term deal. They should. The man came up amazing for them and clutch for them last year. I don't see why they wouldn't do what they can to get him some money. So that's the main thing coming out of Duval County. The former defensive lineman Chris Smith passed away earlier today. Chris Smith was drafted by the Jags in 2014. My bad. He didn't pass away today. He passed away earlier this week. But he was a 2014 draft pick for the Jags. Again, he's defensive lineman, and he was traded in 2017 to the Cincinnati Bengals. So, obviously, our hearts go out to him. It's always sad whenever you hear a story like this, just simply because he was so young. You know, he was a ball player, and it's always unfortunate. Rest in peace to him. My condolences go out to his family, to Duval County, to the Jaguars and Cincinnati Bengals alike. Just praying for them in this tired and harsh time right now, that they can find peace and solace, and that may the Lord guide them, wherever their endeavors take them moving forward. Because I know, the loss of a family member can never be easy, or a teammate for that matter. So, Jags, good luck with everything, and I hope that you are all able to celebrate his life and move on happily, knowing that he's looking down smiling blessings upon you guys. Now, moving on to the last bit of Jaguars news, Chris Claybrooks was arrested on a misdemeanor charges in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, we didn't get to see what those charges were. However, misdemeanor charges means you'll have to show up in court. Did you do it? Yeah. Did you not do it? No. Get a slap on the wrist, continue on, pay whatever fines you have to pay. But, to these players out here making these very, let's just call a spade, stupid mistakes, all right, guys, get your heads out of your behinds, all right? You're getting paid millions of dollars to play the game that you love. I don't quite understand where there's room for error, okay? There's ego, there's pride, and there's other things getting in the way of you guys having successful careers without blemishes. I use LeBron James as a perfect example simply because this man has never been in any kind of trouble outside of basketball. People need to take notes, okay? If you're doing what you love, don't jeopardize that for anything less than your life or somebody you love's life, okay? There's no reason why you guys should be throwing your careers down the gutter, down the toilet for misdemeanors, okay? And little spats and this, that, and the third. Walk away, guys. Walk away. All right. John Morant's a perfect example of what happens when you don't get it right versus changing to get it right. The man was in some trouble earlier this year. He sat down, took some time away from basketball to figure out what the truth was that he needed for himself. And the truth is all he needs is basketball. As long as he has that, he'll be fine. All right. It's the same thing with a lot of other players. Put your pride behind you, play the game that you love, and do it to the T, guys. All right. Moving on to the Dolphins. Tua considered retirement after his issues with the concussions last year. That was one of the biggest things that have been flown. But we already kind of knew that. Anybody who's from Florida and saw Miami play last year saw Tua go through that 2 concussion situation, which was just absolutely terrible. Not something I'd wish on just about anybody, but he made it through. And he had heavily considered retirement because of it, and who could blame him? There were some scary situations that he was in, especially that second hit, okay? The lack of effort by the medical staff and the people that were there to help prevent these kind of things was lackluster at best, and he deserves more time and credit for sticking it out, but he definitely deserves more time to determine where he's going to be at, because should he have even one concussion this coming up year, that would probably send him right back into this tailspin of things that he was in last year, which is what he wants to avoid, what the Dolphins want to avoid as a routine issue, basically, is the point I'm making. Is not something that you want to make a current, stating, repetitive issue that every year, multiple times a year, he's getting hit, he's having concussions. Again, that means that the Dolphins need to step their game up, and they need to continue to do better, especially when taking care of their personnel and their people, chief among them, their quarterback. Now, the Dolphins, again, they have a really good team put together. They've got a lot of great players in great places, and that means that right now, they're focused on right now is the draft and making sure that what positions they don't have keys have filled in, and that would include tight end. And it's probably the most important position for them to fill right now would be tight end. They only have Mike Gesicki has actually moved on, I should say, from Miami, and that was their guy. And may I add, one of the best tight ends in all of football. So they're definitely going to have to fill the tight end position. We'll have to wait and see what they do with that, whether they go first or second round. I suspect they'll probably do it in the first round because you got a real good guy coming out of Georgia playing tight end. That guy's big, and he's really good. That's what I would suspect that Miami does in the first round if he's there. If he's not there, then of course they're probably going to go safety, defensive line, and receiver. Each of those positions, they need Pretty much the same. I would say the most important one out of the three would be safety, because it's going to be hard again to do anything without a solid backfield, and obviously they've got two great cornerbacks but no great safeties. So that's going to be very, very important for them to take care of, especially coming up into this season where they're going to have, a lot of good teams that throw the football. The Buffalo Bills, the Jets are going to be throwing the football very well this year, especially with the arrival of Aaron Rodgers. For Aaron Rodgers does in fact play for them, and you also have Mac Jones over there with the New England Patriots, and at some point they're going to have to start clicking, right? So why wouldn't it be this year? You're going to need some defensive back help. You're going to need some safety help, Miami. So you're going to need to focus on that. The wide receiver help is probably going to be the least of the three that they're going to need, but of course you're still going to need to give what's his name that you guys just acquired from the Chiefs last year? You guys know who I'm talking about. Tyreek Hill, there we go. You're going to need some help. All right, it can't just be him. He can't just be the only 1,000-yard receiver on the team. You guys are going to have to get some other guys up at that 700-800-yard mark to help complement him. So that's something that I suspect that they'll handle throughout the draft. I wouldn't be surprised if they pick up 2 or 3 guys in the draft at wide receiver. And then that leaves DL. Defensive line, of course, they're going to need some help there. You've got Watkins in the middle, and he's a tremendous force to be reckoned with, but you're going to have to pair him with somebody. And I look for you guys to fill that need within the first 3 rounds as well. I wouldn't be surprised actually in the first 2. If I had it my way and I'm Miami, I'm going tight end first round, I'm going DL second round, and possibly third round. And if I don't go third round, I'm going to go safety second round and DL third. Just depends on who's on the board. It depends who's available and exactly what you're looking for as far as package-wise goes for each of these players. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. Again, like I said, it's going to be tight end, safety, DL, most important, wide receiver with a winky face there at the end. And there's always the possibility that Miami could trade out of the first round if they acquire, a player that could essentially just fix one of those needs for them, right at the top. So guys, don't be surprised if that happens. Again, I mentioned earlier that this would be very big year for trades in the draft, so look out for that, and also look out for some splash picks all over the place. And again, as far as the mock drafts go concerned, I wouldn't be surprised if Miami gets that kid out of Georgia, number 19. I can't remember what his name was. I think his name was Brock something, but he's a tremendous ball player, huge size. He reminds me of Gronkowski, and that's the guy that I would go after if I was Miami. As I mentioned before, the Jaguars are going to be looking in pretty much defensive backfield, so safety help. Look for them to take one of the top rated safeties off the board. If not there, O-line, D-line are both areas that they could use to improve. And but again, they have the best team coming out of Florida. And then as far as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are concerned, Anthony Richardson would be my number 1 pick. If not Anthony Richardson, if CJ Stroud is there, I'd take CJ. There are a couple of great guys there that I wouldn't be surprised to take, but we all know Bryce Mitchell is going to go number 1 overall. So I said Bryce Mitchell, my apologies, but you guys get what I'm saying. The kid out of Alabama is going to go number 1 overall. My apologies for getting the name wrong. So when I get back, guys, we're going to go ahead and talk NBA. We're going to talk MLB and NHL, and after that, I'll give you what to look out for tonight on UFC. And then there's a great boxing match on tonight that we're also going to discuss shortly. So thank you for keeping it locked here at Palm Tree Sports. Again, I am your host, Corey Pujols. It is always brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Keep it locked here, guys, and I'll be back in 90 seconds, okay?
What's up, sports fans? Are you looking for the latest on Northern California sports? Then take a trip out west with me, your host, Gina G, on Reppin' the NorCal Sports, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'll be bringing it to you all the way live every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And it's always a packed show. I'll bring you everything Dynastic 49ers, the bite of the San Jose Sharks, torture of the San Francisco Giants, the Golden State Warriors that we still believe. Then take you across the bay to the rise and grind of the Oakland A's. I've got you covered on college ball from the Cal Bears to the Stanford Cardinal, so that no matter what, reppin' a NorCal sports is always reppin' the Bay. So if you bleed red and gold, or you're looking to keep an eye out west in them thar hills, don't miss me, Gina G, on Reppin' a NorCal Sports. Catch me every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and I'll have your fandom repped harder than a trio of defenders guarding Stephen Curry before his buzzer beater is Gucci.
And guys, welcome back to another episode of Palm Tree Sports. Again, my name is Corey Pujols, your host, brought to you by eSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And guys, we're right back at it again. As I mentioned earlier, this show is going to be a relatively short show in comparison to the ones that we've done before, just due to the nature, again, of the fact that there are so many teams in the off-season right now. And in their off-season, obviously, there's not a whole lot going on. Let's just call it like what it is. But as soon as more news starts popping back out of college sports, we will definitely get back into the swing of those things. Now, as for what's going on currently, I may have mentioned this earlier that I was watching the Chicago White Sox versus the Rays game. This game right now is in the bottom of the 8th. It's tied 3-3. It's not our best game, our cleanest game. We just struck out one more guy, so we're down 2 outs at the bottom of the 8th, which means this game should be coming ahead within the next 45 minutes or so. Hopefully, the Rays can pull one out. They walked it off yesterday against the White Sox in dramatic fashion. It was beautiful, and hopefully we can try to do that here again today, because it looks like we're in a little bit of trouble. Mr. Taylor Walls, who was the first... he scored a solo home run earlier today, if I remember, and he was the one who opened the game up to 3-2 before Chicago tied it. So with that being said, let's continue on with the Rays and talk about what they got going on. Now, the Rays are the best team in baseball at the moment. However, the consensus is that we haven't played the other best teams in baseball, which is a completely understandable concept. Nonetheless, I'm not going to sell our boys short for what they're done. 17-3 currently is our record. They're playing tremendous baseball behind an amazing batting average as far as the league lead is concerned. Jeez, I can't English right now, guys. I apologize. We've got 21 straight games to start the season with a home run. Okay, guys. Now that's a record. That's an MLB record. That is the best starting record by 21 game played baseball team in the season to start the season. However, it hopefully doesn't stop here, and it'll continue on. I mean, we'll see exactly what the boys are able to do, but again, they're in some trouble right now against Chicago. Now, this game is not the last game against Chicago. The last game against Chicago is tomorrow at 1:40. So if you guys are looking for something to watch early afternoon lunchtime, 1:40 kickoff time for that game. That'll be the final game against the White Sox, and after that, there's going to be a 3-game series against the Astros. Okay, so just a heads up on what to look for tomorrow. That'll be one of the games. There will be MLB or NBA basketball tomorrow as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the White Sox series, and then after the Astros, we revisit the White Sox again. So we'll be seeing them pretty soon on a turnaround there. Now, as I mentioned before, they're tied 3-3 at the bottom of the 8th. They just retired. Actually, the Rays just retired the 8th, so we're going to be headed over to the 9th and final inning. Again, they walked it off yesterday. Let's see if they're able to do that again today. They're going to have to, especially with this tie game and because the White Sox have life. Now, there has been some bumpy baseball play today. There have been a couple of teams, or a couple of players, I should say, that have been hit. There was both of them. Actually, yeah, the White Sox just seem to be swinging on the Rays, if I'm being honest here. We had one of the Rays got popped with a pitch earlier, and then there was one of our pitchers got popped by it was a fair ball, but it hit him right in the side, and he got hurt. He went over, so that caused a change to the pitching at that time, which led to the tie game at 3-3. It was 3-2 before the pitching changed due to that hit. So that's just one of the unfortunate outcomes of what happens here in baseball. These things happen. There's no way around it. It's just unfortunate due to the fact that you never want to see your guy get hit, especially when he's pitching very well. So that's what's going on there for the Rays. As I mentioned before, 17-3, best start in MLB, our Major League Baseball for the Rays. Best start we've ever had. And again, the 21 games in a row to start a season with a home run is an MLB record. So shout out to the Rays for playing tremendous baseball. We got to keep playing with those OG uniforms. I'm telling you, they keep bringing us good luck. All right. So keep it up, Rays. Let's win one more. Let's win this one tonight. Win one more in with Chicago. Get us to 19-3, and then hopefully we can try to sweep the Astros, who are playing. They're playing okay baseball at the moment. I'm not going to call them the best team, but they're playing okay baseball. So we'll see them soon. Now, moving on, we got NBA. We got NBA news tonight. Actually, you got the Heat and the Bucks Game 3 tonight, 7:30. In case you're looking to watch that. Now, I'm always going to tell you guys what I'm looking out for, and that's always going to be part of the segment here. But I'm going to be watching UFC tonight. I'll probably be watching the Davis Garcia fight as well. You guys know I'm huge fight fans. But I will be going back and forth to check on the Heat game, and then obviously the Bolts playing tonight. So my head will be on a swivel. I may just have ESPN app open on my phone the whole night and do it like that, but we'll have to see what happens as the Rays pick up a ground one for the first out at the top of the ninth. All right, good job, Rays. Now, for the Heat, they are tied 1-1 in this series against the Bucks. I believe Giannis was just ruled out, guys. Actually, breaking news. Let me see real quick. I believe he was just ruled out. Yes. He was just ruled out 25 minutes ago for Game 3, guys. So that means no Giannis for Game 3. The Miami Heat are going to have to take advantage of this, especially if they're going to want to seal this game before six games. And you get what I mean by that. I think they want to win out right here. You don't want to sit here and let Giannis get back into the lineup because he is an absolute powerhouse. He's a dog. He's a monster. And he's one of the best basketball players on the planet at the moment, all right? So we'll have to see what happens there. Let's go Heat. Now, that game is tonight, as I mentioned before, at 7:30. But again, there's a lot to watch tonight. So if you guys can't make it to that game, Game 4 will be Monday night, I think it is. It's either tomorrow night or Monday night. I think it's actually Monday night. I forgot to write that down, so I do apologize. But don't worry. That game will be played within the next 48 hours of this game tonight. So look forward to that as this series starts to come to a head, and we'll see who starts to take the lead. Just best of luck to the Heat. Again, it's not going to be an easy deal. The Bucks are rated number 1 in the East, and they've been playing tremendous basketball, and like I said, with the return of Giannis on the horizon, there's always that possibility of them kind of pulling away. So let's go Heat. Good luck tonight. And like I said, Giannis is out for tonight, so this will be their best bet. With that being said, let's move on over to the NHL real quick, guys. Again, due to the fact that there's nothing really going on in college, that's part of the reason why we're skipping over them. So for NHL tonight, though, we got hockey tonight, of course, and that's going to be the Bolts versus the Maple Leafs Game 3. All right, so you got Heat Game 3, you got Bolts Game 3, both kicking off tonight, 7:30. All right, so you guys are going to be going back and forth, flipping through the channel a lot between these two games. The Maple Leafs took Game 2 by a score of 7-2, and as you guys know, the Bolts took Game 1 by a score of 7-3. So basically, these teams are scoring at will on each other. They are scoring at will. This is just a battle of two infantries on ice, if you will, and they are going to be going at it with their best shooters available, as the Bolts are bringing back Victor Hedman into the lineup, which is going to be tremendous. We're going to need him. And the Bolts are definitely going to have to take this game, especially if they want to put an edge on and try to stop the surge of the Maple Leafs as the Rays get their second out here at the top of the ninth. Mr. Fairbanks in for the possible save, so we will see how this continues to open up. But good job, Brandon Lau. Good job. Yep. Good job, guys. Now, the Maple Leafs are a team that the Bolts have struggled with all year, but as you guys know, the Bolts turn into a different team, a much more better defensive team. They're going to have to bring that defense against the Maple Leafs tonight. So that's what we're going to have to wait and see. But like I said, the return of Victor Hedman should help shake things up a lot more. And the next game after Game 3, which is tonight, will be on Monday night, April 24th at 7:30 p.m. So if you're looking for that, that'll be the game on Monday night. Along with the Heat, I believe. Like I said, that game should be either tomorrow night or Monday night. But look out for both of those Game 4s, which will be pivotal, especially for teams. If hopefully our Florida teams can take a 2-1 lead and turn it into a 3-1 lead within a 72-hour period. That have a lot of confidence popping and be able to bring home these 2 series victories and move on to the next round. That's what we're hoping for. That's the idea. That's the just. Again, like I said before, we're going to have to do it behind great defense. We'll just have to wait and see what happens here tonight at 7:30, guys, as we flip back through those channels. Now, I'm going to take one more short break, and then when I come back, we're going to talk about what to watch for tonight as far as the MMA and boxing, respectively, have two huge main events, and I will be covering just a tiny bit of those just to give you an idea of what's going on. So, guys, thank you again for having it locked here at Palm Tree Sports. Again, my name is Corey Poole, your host, and as always, is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
Ladies and gentlemen, hear me and hear me good. If you like sports, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. If you like comedy, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. If you like a different opinion coming from a different angle, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. So join me Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with your host, Jelani JB Bodie. And of course, my man Lopan on the WaitAMinuteShow.com. Ain't that right, Lopan?
Let's go, baby. All right, the Rays just retired the top of the ninth. Fairbanks in, and he's pitching nasty, guys. He's pitching absolutely nasty. But welcome back to this episode of Palm Tree Sports. This week's episode of Palm Tree Sports. Again, my name is Corey Poole. Your host is brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And guys, we're going to have the chance to walk it off here in the ninth, just as we did the night before. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and watch the rest of this game before I move over to MMA for tonight. Yes, I sense something big coming up before the draft as well, and I'd love to see something big, i.e., hey, listen, I'll put it to you like this. Quan Alexander is a former Buccaneers linebacker who's been on a resurgence late in his career. He's going to be a guy that we could possibly pick up, and the reason why I bring that attention to you guys and this late into the show is because if Devin White gets traded, it would be a lot easier for the Bucs to find somebody who already knows how to run the defensive scheme, and that Quan Alexander is one of those guys. Before his injury, he was a tremendous ball player for the Bucs, and I wouldn't be surprised again, as I mentioned before, if they go after Trey Lance. So that could be one of the big things that we see coming. We'll have to wait and see, guys. We'll just have to wait and see. It's hard to tell right now, just because, again, the draft is an unknown, right? Obviously, all of these players have yet to prove themselves on NFL fields, and they have yet to step foot on an NFL field at that. So we'll have to wait and see. But right now, let's talk about what's going on tonight as far as we have a lot of fight news tonight. And so we have a UFC heavyweight fight night, guys. For those who do not know, Sergey Pavlovich is absolutely nasty. He's got just some monster power in his hands. He's been on a knockout spree. He just knocked out the Black Beast Derek Lewis recently on the last UFC fight night. However, he's going against a guy, Curtis Blades, who is a tremendous wrestler, perhaps the second best wrestler in all of the heavyweight division at the moment. But he's flashed some knockout power as well, recently knocking out another top heavyweight contender. So this is something to look out for tonight. It's going to be a tremendous main event. I would say if Curtis takes this fight to the ground, he wins. If he cannot take this fight to the ground, he loses. Very simple. My bet is Curtis Blades' first or second round submission or TKO. If the fight stands up, again, Sergey Pavlovich is going to take it. I don't think Curtis is going to stand with him. I wouldn't stand with him. Sergey does not have great wrestling. defense or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for that matter, so there's the hole in his game. And like I said, Curtis is showing us that he has some power too in his right hand. So that's my projection for that. For the records respectively, Sergey Pavlovich is 17-1-0, while Curtis Blades is 17-3-0. Should Curtis win this fight, or should Sergey win this fight, I believe they will be in line for a title fight after the fight between John Jones, the newly crowned heavyweight champion of the world. And for those who didn't expect that to happen, I'm sorry, y'all just don't watch enough mixed martial arts. For those who watch enough mixed martial arts, we saw this coming a mile away. We'll see what happens next. John Jones is going to be fighting Stipe Miocic next, the greatest heavyweight in UFC history, barring DC. And it's going to be a great fight. It's just going to be a tremendous fight. I can't wait to see what happens. I look for John Jones to use his wrestling again there, as standing with, I just said his name. With Stipe Miocic is not the best idea. Let's just call it like what it is. Unless you are, the former heavyweight champion of the world, Francis Ngannou, you don't want to stand up with that guy. Guy's got tremendous kickboxing, tremendous distance control, and ability to make things happen, especially when you think you're winning a fight. So that is the main event for UFC Fight Night. Again, this is a heavyweight fight night, but the co-main event is in middleweight with Brad Tavares taking on Bruno Silva. This is an absolutely great co-main event. Both of these guys have been main event material for the better parts of their careers. Brad Tavares welcomes himself back to the octagon after some time away. Meanwhile, Bruno Silva looks to continue to just prove himself and prove that he is a force to be reckoned with at middleweight and break into top flight contention, as the middleweight crown has shifted back to Israel Adesanya. I'm still excited for Izzy, picking up that title again, or getting his title back, I should say. What he was able to do against Alex Pineda was absolutely magical. Again, for those who don't know, I called that fight. A lot of people probably didn't see it coming, probably did not believe it, especially because Alex had beaten Izzy on paper, only on paper, okay, 3 times before. But as we know, Israel Adesanya is possibly, in my opinion, the greatest middleweight of all time here at the UFC, and perhaps the greatest kickboxer that the UFC has ever seen, and he has proven that by taking out Alex Pineda. And next, Alex Pineda is moving up to 205, so that trilogy inside the UFC may only take place if both Izzy and Alex both win their respective next title fights. The reason why I'm saying if Alex wins his is because if he fights Jamal Hill and the fight stays standing up, he's going to knock out Jamal Hill. Okay, Jamal Hill is the new 205 light heavyweight champion, but obviously Alex Pineda is moving up to 205, and he'll be up next, most likely for a title shot, especially coming after the title shot loss to Israel Adesanya. If they both win, I would suspect that Izzy would move up to 205 to challenge for the light heavyweight championship again, which he did earlier in his career, but lost, and that was his first UFC career loss, and it was by a wrestler. Not really a wrestler. Jan Blachowicz has a lot of power, but Jan did not want to stand with Izzy, so he took him down after losing the first 2 rounds to Izzy in that title fight. Winning the last 3 rounds enabled him to take the unanimous decision victory. And so that brings us over to the lightweight, which is the co-main event. You got Bobby Green, crowd favorite Bobby Green, a guy with great striking, great maneuverability, and a long tenured UFC career versus Jared Flash Gordon. Jared Flash Gordon is a very proven UFC vet as well. It's about time for these two to have met. They haven't met before, so I look forward to watching that fight as well. Should be one hell of a strike fest, guys. So if you guys are looking for an exciting card with a lot of striking, tonight is the night. Check it out on UFC Fight Night tonight. That'll be on ESPN. Now, that brings us over to the boxing aspect of things. And guys, for boxing, basically is Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. All I can tell you is Tank got his nickname Tank for a reason. The man's an absolute terror. He's an absolute monster inside the ring. Hands made of steel and a chin made of steel actually as well, for those who have not seen him fight. Look forward to seeing just absolutely solid striking back and forth. Ryan Garcia is not as big as Tank, however, he is technically sound, perhaps the most technically sound boxer in that weight class. And with that being said, we're looking at one hell of a main event for tonight, guys. If I had to take my pick, I'm going to go Tank Davis by knockout, simply because the man has nukes in both hands. He's proven that pretty much every fight of his career, and I wouldn't be surprised if he takes it by knockout. If it goes a distance, I could see Garcia taking a split decision the victory. Of course, there's the ladder where Ryan Garcia could knock out Tank, but there's no guarantee that'll happen, especially the fact that Tank has been who he has been through the years, and that is a tank. All right, so look forward to that one. I believe that one's going to be on Showtime tonight. If you're looking for boxing, if you're looking for mixed martial arts, ESPN is going to be the way to go for UFC Fight Night, guys. I'm going to be watching the Fight Night personally. I always am. So with that being said, that's going to do it for this episode of Palm Tree Sports. Thank you guys so much for joining me here this Saturday. I really appreciate the love. My first show back from my move again. It was a big move, very tiring. Did not have a lot of time to get it complete, but yet we got it completed. I'm here. I'm blessed. I'm thankful to be in front of you guys to share my opinions and share what's going on in the world of sports, especially down here in football or Florida. With that being said, I'm still struggling with my English right now today, and I apologize for that, guys. But in the meantime, between time, if you want to talk anything sports related, if you guys want to get at me, I am on Twitter all the time at Corey Pujols. You guys will see me there, usually posting things about, the Rays, the Bucks, the Gators, all the, what has going on here in Florida. So thank you guys again so much. I hope that you guys enjoy your weekend or the rest of your weekend. Be safe. Spend time with family. Life is short, guys. All right. And for those going to church in the morning, just be safe in the morning, Dad. I will see you at church in the morning. Thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate all the love and support. And I will catch you guys same time, same place next week. Have a wonderful week, guys. Catch you later.